Start the recording. We have just started the recording. Great. And now I'm sharing the screen. I should be sharing the screen. Can you see it, guys? Perfect. So
I cannot.
Can you see it?
Now I can. I can see it now.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So Kevin, all yours.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to the ASGSR Student Poster Session 101. And just to let you know, the recording for this for these presentations, as well as presentations, will be listed on the website that you were provided earlier in the notification for this briefing. Next slide, please. So I just want to make sure you know there are actually three topics that we'll be discussing today: what to expect and what the expectations are for the poster session, how to create a scientifically impactful poster, and how to present your poster. And then finally, opportunities for networking and engaging the science community, science and engineering communities at the ASGSR, and also beyond. So, so overall, what we want to do is make sure you have the best opportunity to present your science, and also a really great opportunity to meet individuals and other scientists and students at the ASGSR. Next slide, please. So, as I've mentioned, welcome to this American Society for Gravitational and Space Research. Our goals at the ASGSR for your participation are many. But what it distills down to is we really want to be able to provide you with a professional venue to present your outstanding science, technology, and engineering projects. Also, we want you to gain important experience interacting with, communicating your science and engineering to a diverse set of individuals, scientists, engineers, space agency leadership, and students. Also, we want you to learn about how others discover what their future professional career goals are, the pathway to their careers, and how they achieve their goals, and what they're considering for their future. Also, we want you to provide you with an environment for you to interact with fellow students at all levels. And that's really important because the students that you interact with today could be your colleagues of tomorrow. So we want you to really get around and talk with the other students and also learn from each other about your experiences and what you've done. And finally, in meeting the professional engineering and science communities, we want you to be able to obtain advice and guidance on pursuing higher education and your career ambitions and goals. Next slide, please. So, getting the most out of your ASGSR experience. I just want to remind you, and I'll bring this up again, that on Saturday, November 12th from 2 to 3 o'clock, we are going to have the high school, and this is for any student really, meet the faculty session where we're going to have a panel of faculty or engineers and professionals to tell you about their careers and what they've done, and then have you have the ability to ask questions you may have about careers, about how to get in college, and a lot of other different things. So that's an important thing to attend. Also, attend the presentation sessions each day you are at the ASGSR meeting. Everything is open for you to attend except the ASGSR board meeting. So make sure you review the copy of the program, either online or the printed copy at the meeting, and kind of mark off what you'd like to see, what you'd like to do, and what you'd like to hear. Familiar yourself with the meeting ahead of time so you know where to go immediately once you're there. And then also make sure you attend other student posters and engage them in conversation. Some of you may be only there on Saturday, but we have the poster session split, so you'll be able to talk to other students. And the other key thing is ask questions during your poster session, during meeting sessions. Feel free to approach anyone who is at the meeting and ask them questions. Who are you? What do you do? How did you get to where you want to go? It's how you start to build interactions, how you start to build networking, and how you learn a lot of things. So ask those people questions. Make sure you go through the vendors exhibit hall and ask and talk to the engineers and scientists who are working on advancing technologies and capabilities for space exploration. Ask them about their jobs. Again, ask questions. And if you're looking for someone specific to learn something about, you can find one of us at the meeting, or ask anybody at the meeting, or go to the registration desk and ask who you can talk to about your question. We will go and find that person you're looking for, and we will put you guys together so you can talk. So again, ask questions and be curious about what you want to learn at the meeting. Next slide, please. So if you didn't know, this is who attends the ASGSR meeting. It's really, really diverse. NASA is obviously there, the NASA leadership, from headquarters, divisions, programs, management. Also, the NASA field centers are present there. There's spaceflight scientists and project leadership. We have international space agencies who may attend, the International Space Station National Laboratory leadership and management. Obviously, scientists. This is a science and engineering conference. And so they're going to be researchers, professors, postdocs, again, other students like yourself. And from 4 principal areas: space biosciences, physical sciences, fundamental physics. And because we are in Houston, the human research program in human biology and biomedicine are going to have attendees at the meeting. So definitely talk to a lot of people. And finally, commercial space companies will be there. Space flight platforms, engineering technology, science, biotech, and biopharma. So we're a very broad-based group of community, and a lot that you can learn from just by going out and asking and interacting. Next slide, please. Logistics and schedules. I think if you're not aware of this yet, you should be. The graduate student post sessions on Friday, November 11th, and the undergraduate, high school, middle school student post sessions, which will be combined together, is on Saturday, November 12th. If you haven't already, please send in your acceptance or decline invitation as soon as possible to the email address on the post notification competition letter. Now, we also would like to make sure that you have your poster on your easel no later than 30 minutes before the start of the session, regardless of your poster number. Okay, you can put up your poster session for those on Friday. On the Saturday poster session, you can put them up on Friday before. You just need to make sure that there's no poster present in the place that you're supposed to put yours in. You're going to be provided a poster number and a poster session room name when you sign in at the registration desk if you haven't received it already. And then each poster is pre-assigned a number that corresponds to a pinned number on the poster easel board where you'll put your poster. And again, remove your posters by 12:30 Central Time. And then the Meet the Faculty session, which is open to all students, graduates through middle school, is on Saturday, November 12th from 2 to 3. Next slide, please. Now, the principal focus of the poster session is not to go and win the competition. The principal focus of the poster session is to present and discuss your science, technology, and engineering to others. It's to educate others about your project and to, in return, learn from others based on questions and discussion. That is the key. That is why we have a student poster sessions, to give you the experience to be able to present what you know. Because obviously, if you cannot communicate what you're doing, no one will know what you're doing. So that's the key, is we want you to really discuss what you're doing in different areas. There's also, and then as I've mentioned, this poster session is an added activity to the main session itself. What to expect? All even up posters will be presented. In this case, this is for the undergraduate and middle schools from 10 a.m. to 11. Odd posters will be from 11 to 12. For the graduate work, Joy Amasa will let you know if it's going to be odd or even first that will be presenting. Just we have a lot of posters, and you can't put everybody together because it just gets really loud. All attendees of the meeting are invited to attend the poster session. So there's going to be a varying level of expertise and knowledge about the science you're presenting, from 100%, because that's what that person does, to people who have no idea what you do because it's totally different from what they do. Ask questions, have discussions with them. But the main thing is, even the people who have very little knowledge, if they're talking to you, it's because they're interested in learning what you do and what your science is. So Don't worry about the level of understanding. Just make sure that you answer their questions and they understand what you're saying. And again, due to the posters being presented at once, not all, but your group, it can be loud. So make sure you speak clearly and at a volume that attendees can hear what you're saying. More than one person may engage you at the same time. They may not take turns. There'll be people listening as a group and asking questions of you. Attendees will assume that you are the expert in the science and activity you're presenting, and you'll be treated in this manner. You may be a high school student, you may be a middle school student, an undergrad. You're still going to be considered by us as the expert because you came to present your work, and we respect that. And so they know your students, I think, but just remember, they are going to be respectful of you and your work. You're presenting your poster because you have something important to say, and we want to learn about it. Also, attendees also assume that you want to learn more yourself, so they're expecting questions from you. Again, asking questions. That's how you build dialogue. That's how you build communication, a discussion, and a connection. And then again, the discussions and questions are key benefits and points to participating in a poster session. Next slide, please. Expectations for your poster presentation: practice. Practice with people who know your science that you're doing and people who do not. This allows you to get comfortable with talking to people about your science at varying level of experience and expertise, which you're going to experience when you're at the ASGSR. And also try to engage the attendees at your poster in discussion. If you're unsure of a question, ask for clarification. Don't try to fake it to make it. If you don't know the answer to the question, ask more questions yourself, or say you don't know, you'll look it up. And then you also realize when discussing your poster, you don't need to have all the answers or the definitive finding or discoveries. Sometimes you might get a negative result. Sometimes it might be inconclusive. These are all important for scientific advancement and discourse with others and discussion. So, regardless of what you're presenting, it is important. It's important to you, therefore it is important to us. And your goal is that the attendee comes away with new knowledge and interest in what you're pursuing and learn something new. On your side, you advance your own knowledge, you get ideas for improving your investigation, and you improve your technical presentation skills. That's the goal. Next slide, please. What to expect for the student poster competition. So this is the big question many people have. The judges are not going to introduce themselves. They are responsible for determining if they want to identify themselves or not. This is a real world experience for a professional poster session and competition. That's what we're giving to you. The judges are all volunteers. And as you've seen, we have a lot of diversity in our community. And the judges are not necessarily going to be assigned based on their expertise. They're going to be assigned based on who we assign. So you're going to get someone who knows a lot. You're going to get someone who knows nothing. So you're going to get questions that you might think are a little peculiar for scientists, yet they could, one, be testing to see if you know your information they're asking, or they may have no experience and they are asking to learn something from you by asking that question. All right. So don't make any assumptions about who they are and what they should know. These are all people that are learning about you and your science. Okay. Undergraduate and high school, middle school posters are judged at the same time. And the judges have prior knowledge as to whether you are a high school, middle school student or you're an undergrad. Okay. They're not going to be guessing. They're going to know what level of education you are. And they're not expecting a formal structured presentation as per a science fair. They're expecting you to present clearly and to give appropriate answers, and to demonstrate your knowledge. All right. Okay. So next slide, please. So expectations for you: come to the poster session well prepared and practice. Remember that others have likely conducted the sciences you are studying and presenting. And so understand and explain how you're doing it, why you're doing it. And if they have, no one's done, then it's great. Explain why this is novel, why this is important. Also, you may get questions that are completely irrelevant to what you are presenting, as I've mentioned, or not totally nonsensical. Again, it could be because the person is testing you, or it could be because the person is really asking a question they thought was interesting and relevant to what you're doing. And if it's answered as best you can, draw that person back to your story, your poster. And also that could be out of the box thinking too, so don't, pursue different lines as you're talking. Formal and semi-formal attire are not required, but dress nicely and professionally. Avoid jeans, t-shirts, and sweatshirts. Talk to your mentors about what to wear. And remember, this is your science investigation. So be proud of your work and accomplishment and show your excitement to communicate your research investigation to our ASGSR community. We're excited you are there. This is one of the highlights of our meeting, is when we get to hear what the students are presenting. Just a sec, Álvaro. Sorry about that. My computer decided it wanted to go to sleep. Okay, if you can just flip through all the bullets, that'd be great. Okay, bottom line, have fun and enjoy your participation at the ASGSR meeting. Also, be curious, as I've said, ask questions. Meet and talk with your fellow students from other schools. Again, they could be your colleagues someday. Challenge yourself also to learn something new and ask yourself, what would I do to advance the state of knowledge and technology? Right? That's why you're there. You're there to learn, but to learn something new and ask, how would I do that? How would I do that research? That's what you're going to do in the future. And if I can have my last slide, please. So you are the Artemis generation, the future of space exploration, science, and engineering. The Artemis generation is the group of scientists, astronauts, engineers, technologists who are going to take us to the moon and are going to take us beyond the moon to Mars. This is your generation. The ASGSR is your opportunity to learn more about your career, about science, and what you'd like to do. And so we at the ASGSR are really looking forward to meeting you and hearing about what you have to say. Thank you. And now I'll introduce Dr. Álvaro Romero-Calvo, who will be talking about how to create posters. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kevin. That was absolutely fantastic. And thanks for your introduction. So I will take over from now on, and I will talk to you about how to prepare a poster. And this is largely based on my personal experience. So if other PIs in the room want to add their 2 cents here or their comments, I will for sure be very happy to read them out loud from the question chat. So as Kevin said, actually he didn't say it, I'm a professor, assistant professor at the Georgia Institute of Technology, where I lead the Low Gravity Science and Technology Lab. And this is about delivering a presentation. So the first thing you need to know is what to expect, right? So you will find yourself in a big room like this one with many other posters, and you will just stand in front of your poster like this student from last year, like Amelia, just talking about your research. So if you take a look at this, you will see that it looks more or less like a flea market, right? You are there selling something and you want to catch your public attention. Oh, this is not showing me the correct slide. Nana or Chad, could you please verify that the slide is showing up?
I can see it.
Okay, so it is not on my end. Good. Sorry, Linda, I hope it is solved soon on your end. But this is the idea, right? You are in a big room with a lot of scientists, colleagues of you, that are presenting the research. So your ultimate goal here, first of all, is to catch the public's attention, right? And we will see how to do that in a second. Once you have someone else's attention, you can start talking about your research. So this will be the situation. The key question though is, why do you want to do this? And what does a good poster look like? How do I deliver my message, or how do I attract people's attention, right? Or how do I make sure that everyone reads my poster? Those are the key questions that you may have right now. So let's start with the first one. Why do you do this? The first answer, usually, particularly as you become more mature as a scientist, is to get feedback from your community. Turns out that as you progress in the student path, right, you start addressing more and more challenging problems that nobody has the answer to, right? So that requires some sort of collaborative work where you actually talk with people and get to know other people's opinion on your work. That is one of the reasons why we do conferences, why we interact as scientists. The second one is to explore new ideas. It happens many times that you think you have the solution for a problem, and suddenly someone comes up from a completely different field and says, hey, have you tried doing that? And that is a great way to expand your research and to make it better. Of course, another goal is to find job opportunities or to find out what you want to do with your career, particularly if you are a student who is, for instance, considering the kind of undergraduate program that you want to pursue in the future, or graduate program that you want to go, or maybe there is someone from the university, your dream university, and you want to talk with that person to know more about the in situ situation. And then there is another one. Of course, we do this for fun. Participating in a conference is a great experience. You will have a great time at ASGSR. You will meet a lot of people, and you will learn a lot about science in general and about this kind of research that we do in particular. So just keep this in mind. A poster presentation is an amazing opportunity to interact with the scientific community, and there is something in particular about poster presentations. They are a more personal configuration than a standard talk in the front of an audience, right? You will have the opportunity to talk one-on-one with a lot of people that are experts in your field, and you will have 1 hour for doing so. When you deliver a talk in front of an audience, you don't usually have that sort of interaction. So exploit it in your poster presentations. Now let's go to some key guidelines on how to prepare a poster. And I know this can be challenging as a student. I perfectly remember the first time I had to prepare a poster, and there were not many guidelines out there to see, so I hope this helps. There are a few rules that you need to follow. The first rule is follow the rules. Captioning Captain Jack Sparrow, the only rule that matters are this: what a man can do and what a man can't do, okay? Every time you present a poster in a scientific conference, you need to take into account that that venue is going to impose some rules. In the case of ASGSR, it is going to be very simple. We require a maximum poster size of 4 by 4 feet, okay? That is the only thing, the only guidance that we provide. So the rest is what I'm going to talk to you about. You have absolute freedom for configuring your poster in the best way you consider appropriate. But there are a few tricks that you need to consider here. The first one is you need to follow a logical layout for your poster. Use sections, right? Distribute your space in a logical manner. Use columns. Columns are a powerful tool when you present a poster. So you will have an introduction, you will have methods, you will have results, which are usually the largest part of your poster, and then conclusions and acknowledgements. You also need to remember that people read usually from the top to the bottom of the slide. So keep that in mind while you configure your poster. People will first read your title and then go to everything else. Don't put the results before the introduction or on top of the introduction, because that is not going to work for your poster. The third rule, sorry, is that a poster is a visual medium. Okay, this is not a book. This is not a scientific article. This is not a note that you draw in your sheet of paper. Okay, a poster has to help you, and this is very, very important. Don't overwhelm your audience with text. Keeping white space or blank space, sorry, in your poster is important. The rule of thumb is about keeping more or less a 25% of blank space in your poster, so that people doesn't feel overwhelmed. So imagine that I'm walking in front of your poster and I see a wall of text, right? I know that stopping there will imply that I will need to remain there for at least 10-15 minutes to read all the information. But the poster session is only 1 hour long, and I want to see many other posters. Make sure that whoever reads your poster can get the most important pieces of information in a short period of time. And in order to do so, you need to reduce the amount of text in your presentation. Use large fonts that can be read from at least 6 feet away. The reason for this is that sometimes you don't have only one person in front of your poster. You may have a group of 7, 8, 9 individuals. And even the person who is at the very last row of that group has to be able to read your poster. And structure your text. Give it a hierarchy, right? Use bullet points, colors, tables, things that actually help you visually understand what you are presenting. Figures are the core of your poster, okay? They include plots, drawings, pictures, everything that you need to convey information. So let me give you an example. Last week, my students, Georgia Tech, were presenting information on the surface temperatures of Mars. And there were two types of teams. The teams that just wrote a paragraph and put it in the slides, right, about the temperature distribution on Mars, and those who took that temperature distribution and made a 2D plot on top of the surface of Mars. So you could see the temperature distribution by season at the surface of the planet. There is obviously one way that works better than the other. You have a nice plot for your system, a nice picture of your experimental setup that is going to attract people's attention and convey a lot of information in a short period of time. So make sure you use those sort of resources. Also, don't forget that legends are also text, and therefore it have to be read also from 6 feet away. So be very careful to have sufficiently large fonts in the legends. And again, I recommend sans serif fonts because they are usually easier to read. There is another trick that you have to consider. I will use colorblind safe color maps and high contrast color maps as well. There is this tool here called Color Brewer that tells you which color maps you can use for colorblind safe presentations. This is important with people with visual impairments. So make sure that everyone can read your poster. And finally, and this is a key aspect of good poster, include an eye-catching image. I had a friend whose father was had a post in a flea market, right? And he always included some sort of figure, some sort of light that attracted people's attention to his post. And actually he was very successful, right? Because he could attract a lot of people to see his merchandise. You have to do exactly the same. You need to include that something in the poster that people look at it and say, oh, wow, that's cool, right? That something is usually a very nice image of your experiment. As a final guideline, remember that a poster should support and never compete with your explanation. So a poster is something that allows you to give a nice presentation. Keep that in mind. The fourth rule is that you need to do your part of the job. You can have the best poster ever in front of you, but if that poster is not going to tell your story, you are the only one who is able to tell that what you have done in terms of research, right? So you will need to explain what you are displaying. You will need to be prepared to answer questions professionally. And this is something that you learn essentially by experience, but there is this sweet spot between being genuine and being persuasive and convincing, right? So you need to train a lot to be persuasive and convincing, but you need to make it in that way so that whoever is in front of you doesn't detect that you have memorized your speech, your elevator pitch of 3 minutes that you will give in front of your poster, right? So you will need to train a lot, you will need to understand very well your science in order to be genuine when you present your science. Again, it is very, very important that you practice again your 3 minutes elevator pitch. That is, and probably 3 minutes is too much. I will reduce it to 1 or 2 minutes. That is the time you have to explain your research to someone is located in front of your poster and interested by your research. As a final note, remember that the poster presentation is as much about you as it is about your poster. Okay, so you need to do your part of the job. It is a common mistake that you prepare a wonderful poster presentation with all the layout and everything nicely located, but then you forget that it is you who has to present this research, right? So it is very important that you practice and get prepared for this kind of experience. So I want to give you, to conclude, a few good and bad examples of this. So let's start with a very bad poster. What is bad about this poster? Well, almost everything. For starters, there is too much text here, right? So there is, I think there are 800 words in here. Colin B. Purrington is the person who prepared this bad example for teaching his students. And you can see that there is a lot of text. If I am in front of this poster, I will run away. First of all, because it is extremely overwhelming. Secondly, because I know I won't have time to understand all this. The background image here is distracting. You should use plain colors, not necessarily white, but plain colors in the background so that you are not distracted from the content. The text boxes here have different colors, and there is actually no reason for that. A good poster is a visual element where every component has a purpose, right? So you do need to make sure that everything you place in here has a reason for being there. The different test boxes here have different widths, different locations. This is extremely distracting. It is really hard to follow the flow of content here. There is another scientific problem with this poster. The abstract and the introduction are very long, and the results is just this little box in here. You would expect to see more space in the results. That is the key core aspect of your poster, not the introduction. The introduction is common knowledge. Test boxes are also not separated from each other on a regular basis. It looks ugly. That's the problem with it. It is very ugly. And then you have all these logos and images that are not extremely related to the research and that do not provide any sort of useful information. This kind of font and this kind of wording is extremely complex and extremely distracting, right? This is not what I mean with an eye-catching image. This is not the definition of a nice poster. A nice poster is usually simple, easy to follow. The fonts are not properly word chosen. They are not colorblind safe, but also they are not high contrast. It is really hard to read this and to take, to actually from a single view know what this poster is about. There is a complete absence of images, of relevant images in this poster. So it almost includes everything annoying about a poster, almost everything that you can do wrong in a poster. So be careful not to commit these mistakes. Now let's take a look at some examples of good posters. Okay, this is a great example. I love this one. So you have this eye-catching image that will lead people to your poster. First of all, you have some nice color maps in here, a nice font that you can actually, you take a look at this poster and you think, wow, this looks really cool, right? And there is not a lot of text, but there is a lot of essential text in here, right? Every bullet point here is an essential idea that you need to send to your reader. Every image here has a purpose. The plots are nicely done. If anything, I will say that the font sizes here are probably too small for this poster. But in general, this poster looks good. It has a nice logical organization, an eye-catching main graphic. Looks good to me, at least, as a scientist. This is another good example. In this case, probably there is far too much text in here and the font sizes are a bit too small, but there is a clear organization. The eye-catching image in the middle that attracts your attention as soon as you get close to this paper. There is a good use of graphics in here with world maps, with plots, with all sorts of information. You can extract a lot of information from this poster in a short period of time without the need of a lot of text, and that is what you're looking for. Another one, this one I like it because they include a graphical abstract at the top. I don't like that there is too much text in this poster, but you know, it is at the limit, almost at the limit of what is good for this kind of situations. So take care of doing something like this to have an eye-catching image in some place and to attract the people's attention. And these are some examples from my own poster, and I am finishing now because I'm running out of time. This was my very first poster. I liked it back in the day. I don't like it so much anymore because this experimental setup section is a bit too disorganized, and the results are a bit too little for this one. But this other was a later poster where we discussed experimental setup, and you can see that our eye-catching image was this drop tower drawing here. So it was more or less okay for what we expected for our type. You can do better. I'm pretty sure you can do far better posters in your own presentations. If you want to read further details, these are some great resources for you. This is a great book. It is a bit old, but it has some interesting points for you to follow. And there is this data visualization blog on Nature that you can visit with very cool posts on this kind of topics. So thank you so much for your attention. I will be happy to answer any questions during the question time. And now let me introduce Nana, who will finish this session. Thank you, Nana. I'm sorry for being late.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Álvaro. And welcome, everyone. I'm so happy that you are all interested in this conference and interested in science and space science. So we welcome you and we wish that you have a really good meeting. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about networking, the tools you can use, but also a little bit about the tool you can use for your own career development. So I'm just going to share my screen here and also put in the chat the link. Okay. The first thing that I want to do is we acknowledge the land that we are working and living on. And since we are calling in from many different places, if you go to native/land.ca, which is in the chat box there, it'll take you to the website. And if you click on there, it'll tell you all of the indigenous peoples populations that's in North America and around the world. So right now, we're just going to take a brief moment, find where you live, find the indigenous peoples and their names, and then we're just going to have 10 seconds of silence on how we are grateful to work and live on the land that we are on. We'll take 10 seconds of silence. All right, thank you. The next thing we're going to look at is, Álvaro, can you see the Science Careers IDP?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so the next link that you all want to go to is Science Careers. It's my IDP. Chat, if you can write that in, it's myidp.sciencecareers.org. So this is a tool made by Science Careers. So Science is a very famous journal, if you haven't heard about it yet, but it's what we call a high impact journal. So for those that are publishing really, really good research, this is the journal you want to aim for. Science. There's also Nature. And they developed this individual development plan. So if you go to their website, you just put an email, your name, you can go to this, what's called an individual development plan. So thank you, chat, for putting that up there. And so how is this going to help you at a conference? How is this going to help you as you develop into scientists? I'm assuming that you're all interested in science. That's why you're here. So if you go to this, there are 3 things you're going to be filling out. One is the interest assessment, one's the values assessment, and the other is the skill assessment. So if you want to, what I call wayfind your purpose compass, find out what your purpose is, you need 3 things that need to intersect. You need to have a career that, number 1, is what you're good at or what you hope to become good at. That's the first circle. The next circle that needs to intersect is what you love to do, right? So what gets you up in the morning? What fuels your passion, right? What do you love to do? And then the other circle that needs to intersect is, what do you care about? Okay, so I'm assuming all of you care about space exploration. That's why you're here, but you could be caring about a lot of other things such as social justice, climate change, all these things. What do you care about in your community, your family, your society, your country, globally? So those are the 3 intersections that you want to be in. And when you're in the middle of those 3 circles, that's your purpose compass on how you want to develop your career. And eventually, the 4th circle that you want to be intersected is you should be able to get paid for that, right? Because last time I checked, you still have to pay rent, you still have to pay for food. So, but when you're a student, you want to cultivate those 3 circles. And this tool helps you with that. In that if you go to the skills assessment, it gives you a list of all the skills that a scientist needs to know. I'm not going to go through them all here, but just showing you the examples to become a scientific thought leader. Okay, so to become that scientist that can lead any project with any tools, this is what you're going to aim for. So if you go here, you say, oh, by the end of my PhD, or by the time I become a professor, or by the time I become an industry research scientist, you want to have a highly proficient, say, broad-based knowledge of science. You should be able to have critical evaluation of scientific literature. So all these tools or all these skills that you need as a scientist, they're all listed here in this tool. The other thing is the interest assessment. So if you go to interests and go to assessment, this is all about you. There's no wrong or right answer, right? So if you think in your future career, you never want to do this, then you rated a 1. In your future career, I would like to do this often, you're rated a 5. So this is a very personal interest assessment. So what do you like to do? And this may change in the future, which is why this individual development plan, you should probably do at least once a year. because it changes. So these are your interests. And then if you go to the values assessment, this again is all about you, right? How important it is to have your future career path match each of these values, right? So there's it's essential. It's essential, if you look at the first example, it's essential that I have to help society. So that you'll give yourself a 5. But if you have unimportant, I don't know, people contact, if you don't like people, right, it could be a 2 or a 1. So I'm just saying this is a personal decision. And once you have these skills, interests, and values, you can go to the summary and it can give you these various careers, my career path matches. So even if you want to stay in the field of space exploration or space biology, there's tons of ways to get there, right? We mostly think about research. We mostly think about becoming a professor. But there's tons of other things that you could do, such as the policy of science research, research administration, intellectual property, right? The thing about this is just because you have a match of 92%, don't feel like, oh, then I'm going to become a sales and marketing of science-related products, right? This is not what it's for. But this number just gives you a sense of how it matches what you put in there. But it just gives you a place to start on where you might want to explore these various careers. It's nothing, you shouldn't be like, oh yeah, I'm a 92%, that's what I have to be, right? This is not one of those tests. It just gives you the possibility. So then when you go, let's say you look at these careers, you can read about them. Under read about resources, you can click on these various careers. I'll give you places to read about. Attend events. So that's what you're going to be doing. My events and workshops, you go here, you're going to be putting in this conference, the date of this conference. You're going to take notes of this conference, and every conference and workshop you attend, you can put it in here, keeping track of every places you've been, of all the places you've been. And then talking to people. Kevin talked a bit about networking, right? How do we talk to people at these conferences? So a very important tool is called an informational interview. Anyone can write in the chat or put your hand up who has done an informational interview. I'll wait for any answers. Say yes or no. I see silence. I'm going to assume there's no one has done an informational interview. Okay, so an informational interview is basically an interview reversed. So if, let's see who's in the room here. If Lindy says, hey, I really like Alvaro's cool job at Georgia Tech, I'm going to contact him and I'm going to ask him, what's it like to be an assistant professor? Because he just started. So that's asking somebody that's already doing the career that you think you might want to try, and asking them for an informational interview. So asking them, do you have 30 minutes so I can ask you how you got your job? Right? What steps did you have to take? Right? What did you do in high school? So if you're in grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you can ask him, how did you prepare for that career when you were in high school? What would you do if you were in my shoes? How did you pick your school? How did you pick your graduate education? What was important about the career path that you took that could be helpful to me? Right? What are your challenges? What's your 9 to 5 like? So all these potential questions are in this tool as well. And so, talking about, I'm going to close this tool now, stop share, but any questions about the tool itself? So this tool you can use all through your education, all through undergraduate, all through PhD, even through postdocs, right? Postdoc use it as well, because those skills are constantly being developed. You're never going to get a perfect for everything unless you're an established professor, investigator somewhere. Okay. So a little bit about networking at this conference. So look up in advance who is going to be there. You have the conference program. You know who's going to be there, who the speakers are. You know your peers, what posters they'll be presenting. You know the companies that are going to be there. And then see if you can contact them before and pick 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how many you want. and see if you can set up a time. Say, hey, there's a break at 3:15. Can I meet you outside the coffee to talk? So then you are setting up this time before you even get to the conference. That would be the A+ networking student. The other way to network is when you're there at your poster session. People will come up to you and ask you questions. And when you're speaking to them, so they may be the judge, there may be somebody that is interested in your work, have a business card. Okay, have a business card with your name on it, with your email, with the school that you go to. And then when they come and ask you questions, you can hand them your card right then and there. You can ask for their card. And then behind their card, you're going to write down what you talked about. And that very night, when you're at your computer, you're going to email them. And you're going to say, Chad, thanks for stopping by my poster. This is the question that you asked me. Could we keep in touch in the future? This way you have an electronic history of when you met, it's dated, what you talked about, and in the future you can revert back to that email. You can say, Dr. Sato, we talked at ASGSR 2022, right? Because you're replying back to that email that you already wrote to him. Say, I had another question about such and such. And then how do you also keep in touch with these potential mentors? Just give them an update. So let's say you met Álvaro at this conference and he gave you some really good advice. He told you about a high school project that he was involved with or a science foundation, and you go ahead and do a similar type of activity. And at the end of the year, you entered a poster competition or you gave a presentation, it went really well. He would want to hear about that. Okay, so if Grace writes to him, Grace is like, oh yeah, thanks Álvaro for that advice. I took your, I followed that advice and this is what happened. Thank you so much. 3-4 sentences. And that way, Grace and Álvaro, Grace is basically, you're developing that mentorship in a very casual, organic way. Okay. So that's what the number one thing that mentors or potential people that are going to be your mentors want to hear is updates about you. It's not, hey, happy holidays, happy birthday. They have enough friends, right? It's about you updating them about your progression in all this. So I'm going to stop there because I know there's some questions in the chat, but thank you very much for listening. And we're here to answer any of your questions.
Well, thank you, Nana and Álvaro, for all of the activities for the presentations. They're very, very, very great for the students to know and to learn about. And for all of you students also, make sure you go over what Álvaro put together for the posters as well, because there were some very important advice that he was providing to make your posters, but also how to be impactful in your discussions and talking, and also many of the things that Nana just talked about in terms of networking. Poster sessions are networking. They're opportunities to talk and converse. So a lot of the things that she just told you is very relevant for interacting with the scientists, but also the other students you're going to be meeting and talking to. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with the questions. Chad, do you want to, how are the questions going?
They're going good. We've got a few that have come in. And also for any of you online right now, please type in your questions, or if you have any you want to speak in person, that's fine. Just raise your hand. We can unmute you. But for now, I'll just read from the chat chronologically. And the first came from Kathleen, and she's wondering how many student poster presentations will be presented in the middle school / high school session.
Yeah, so Kathleen, we've got 30 posters that abstracts that were submitted and accepted. We just need to find out whether all of those posters and students are going to attend or not. So we're waiting to hear that, but it'll be maximum of 30, of which 15 they'll be split into two. Half will be even, half will be odd numbers. So at any time there'll be a total of 15 middle school, high school posters presented at one time. And then in the first hour, The second hour, the odd set, or the odd set, the odd numbered posters will be presented. But on top of that, the other question as it's related is we've got over 47 undergraduate posters. So they will also be presented at the same time. Again, split in half or near half. And so we're going to have anywhere from about 30, 35 plus posters being presented at one time. And then that'll flip and we'll have approximately the same numbers for the second hour. And we'll try to make sure everyone gets spread out far enough so that it's not difficult to talk.
Great. The next question was also from Kathleen, and she was asking, is it okay for us to print on fabric so we can roll it up for travel? And how is the poster fastened to the backdrop?
I'll let Álvaro answer this question because he may have some other suggestions, but just real quickly, we're going to provide push pins for fastening on the backdrop. Álvaro?
Sorry, Chad, the audio cut in the middle. Can you repeat? Oh, to print on fabric, was that the question?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it is perfectly fine to print on fabric for sure. How is it actually fastened? I don't know for sure. I will need to ask Jamie Foster for that because they have agreed on that.
Push pins.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was also push pins last year.
Yeah.
Just tacks that you pushed into the corners of your posters to fasten them that way. It seemed to work pretty well. And also a lot of people print on. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Chad. That was going to be my question. Go ahead.
I was going to say a lot of people will print on paper, and you can roll them up, and you can buy large hard plastic tubing that you can carry with you as you're traveling as well. So that's another method as well.
Yeah, but I see what they say. Usually printing in fabric ensures that we will not get the shape of the roller, right? So that's, if you ask me for advice, that's what I will do for sure, because that is what I always do. I always print in fabric to prevent that shape of the roll to stick to the paper.
Yeah, what I did last year is I printed on paper, and I traveled with a hard plastic tube. But as soon as I got to the conference, I unpacked my poster and I put weights on top of it so it would lay flat to kind of train it to lay flat against the eventual backdrop. So that's another tip that may be useful as well. The next question we have is from BJ, and they asked, are we able to share the slides from this presentation?
Yes, the slides as well as recorded sessions will be put onto the website that you should have the link for. If you do not have that link, go ahead and send an email to the email that you received in your notice asking for it. But the notification that for this particular pre-briefing workshop has the link to where everything is going to be stored.
Okay, great. And kind of in relation to this, Dennis asked, will the slides be shared as PDF files to those invited to this meeting? And I think I don't know if they'll be PDFs or not, but they will be shared to those who are invited to this meeting, is what I gather from your answer, Kevin.
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. Well, we had a question from Fiona, and she was asking, if we are presenting during the odd numbered presentation, do we still set up our posters before 10 a.m.? Or are we only after the even numbered posters go?
Everyone sets up their poster at the same time. So all you have to do if you're on the odd numbers is just walk up to your poster. So the rules for setting your poster applies to everyone. Set it up before 10 a.m. so it's already there when you're ready to give to present your poster.
Okay, great, thanks. And that's it for questions. If you guys have any more, please type them up or raise your hand. And if you have questions that pop up later, please feel free to email the email address that you received your invitation for as well, and we can find a way to follow up with you and answer your questions. Okay, well, if that's it,
all right.
Thanks everyone for presenting. You guys did a great job, and Yeah, we look forward to seeing everyone at the upcoming ASGSR meeting. It should be a great time.
Thanks for attending, everyone. And for those of you that turned your cameras on, thank you. I love to see faces.
Unfortunately, I'm on browser. I can't see any. But thanks everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you in a few weeks at the ASGSR meeting and hearing your wonderful science that you're doing. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It was really fun to do this.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Kevin. Well,
Bye-bye.
sorry,
See you, Álvaro. And thanks, Chad. See you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Stop the recording.
Yes.
Oh.